Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Amman in Jordan. But first of all, it is October, which is Halloween month here in America. Halloween is my favorite holiday, so as per tradition, I have my spooky nails on and they will get spookier as the month progresses, so look forward to that. Amman is the capital of Jordan, as you can see, and the largest city in Jordan. Amman has its own governorate, which I attempted to highlight here. Almost all of it is desert. Pretty much this whole entire region here is a whole lot of nothing. So I'm going to mainly focus on the history of the city of Amman. Amman is very famously very hilly. Lots and lots of big hills. All up and down, kind of like San Francisco where I grew up. Big hills all over the city. Also my kitten's trying to get attention. You might hear him in the background occasionally. The history in Amman and the Amman governorate goes way, way back in time. But let's start off the ancient history in more modern times. In about the 1970s, they were building a road here in northern Amman, and we're cutting through just a big old what they call a tell, which is like an old ancient hill. They were making the road go right through it, and they came across some curious artifacts. They were building that road. They obviously halted all construction to dig out these really amazing artifacts in a place that's known as Ain Ghazal. The world's oldest statues of human figures were found here, and you kind of think of like the Venus statuettes. These are statues, they're like busts, like the size of what we would consider a bust today, and they were built sometime around 7000 BCE by the ancient culture that lived here. Of course, we don't know why they were made. They obviously represent people, but some of them have two heads, so who knows if it's meant to be actually people or gods. The best part about them, like many other Mesopotamian cultures, is that they overemphasized the eyes. The rest of the features are kind of like if you made a Play-Doh face, but the eyes are very prominent to make them very distinct artifacts. They're some of my favorite ancient artifacts in the world because they look a little goofy with their big bug eyes. I'll show you on Google Earth later because they're in the Jordan Museum. Nearby Ain Ghazal, the largest hill in Amman, was where the city really began. That hill is known as the Citadel. And pretty much everything that happened in ancient history up until the 1800s happened on that Citadel hill. The first town to be established here was called Rabat Amman, and it was the capital of the Ammonite kingdom, which is mentioned in the Bible a lot. Apparently, I've never read it, but apparently it pops up in the Bible a lot. The Ammonites. These peoples were conquered by quite a few other superpowers, mainly the Assyrians, which became the Babylonians, which was conquered by the Achaemenid Persian Empire, which was conquered by Alexander the Great. And Alexander, being from Macedonia, which is now the area in and around northern Greece, brought Greek culture into the area, and it really stuck here in Amman, building a lot of really cool Greek-inspired architecture, but that would increase dramatically when the Romans took over the region by the year 63 BCE. They changed the name to Philadelphia, mainly because the pharaoh over in Egypt, which was also one of Alexander's little cronies, or the descendant of Alexander's cronies at this point. It was like 300 years ago now. One of his generals became pharaoh of Egypt, so it's like his grandson, I think, was named Philadelphus. So he renamed the city after himself, but yes, it does mean in Greek the city of brotherly love, just like the Philadelphia in America, in Pennsylvania. Roman architecture blossomed here in Amman. They built a beautiful theater, a beautiful public fountain, and of course the Citadel was rife with ancient Roman buildings, mainly the Temple of Hercules, where there was a giant Hercules statue in the middle of it. Of course, that was not to last. By the year 630, the Rashidun Caliphate conquered the region, and obviously it's the Caliphate, so an Islamic superpower basically, took over the area, which would obviously leave lasting impressions because Islam is the most predominant religion in Jordan today. But they also renamed the city from Philadelphia back to Amman. Of course, before it was Rabat Amman, now it's Amman. They changed it back to the old name that it was known as when humans first named it, which I think is pretty cool. Once the Umayyad Caliphate took over, they built their own special place atop the Citadel called the Umayyad Palace, the big beautiful dome. And it's a lovely building. But this is where Amman would have a huge downturn for a long, long time, mainly due to massive earthquakes in the region. Earthquakes and Roman buildings are not friends. So most of the buildings atop the Citadel collapsed. In particular, the Temple of Hercules. All that's left is a few pillars, and you can see part of Hercules' fist. But other than that, it's all crumbled. All the ruins obviously are left in place, and the Umayyad Palace was also very severely damaged. So essentially, once enough earthquakes made the city inhospitable, people started to leave and go to the many other major urban centers in the Levant. And Amman pretty much just became a Bedouin refuge. The Bedouin being nomadic peoples, they would use it as a little respite, a little stopover area, but there weren't very many permanent residents here. The Mamluks conquered the region in an interesting way. They bought it in the year 1357. They purchased Amman outright and turned it into a farming center. So not a big sprawling metropolis, I'm sure, like the Mamluks would have wanted, but the emir that bought it apparently wanted to make a profit, make their money back, so it turned into a farming region. And then, of course, that would transition into the Ottomans, who would annex the area in 1516. And not much would happen for a long time. This area was just backwaters where you could find some old ruins, and the Roman theater is surprisingly still intact. So it was pretty much just a bunch of hills with some old Roman sites there and your occasional goats and farmers. That would change by the year 1878 when the Circassians arrived. Now, who are the Circassians? Circassians are like a Turkic group, I believe they're Turkic, that lived up in the Caucasus Mountains, which is just on that side of Turkey. Here's Syria, Turkey's above it, and it's to the northeast of Turkey, the Caucasus Mountains, which separate Russia from the rest of Eurasia up there. The Circassians were Muslim, are Muslim, they're still around, are Muslim. And when Russia started expanding into the Caucasus region, into what's now Georgia, Armenia, etc., the Circassians did not have a good time there, let's say, in the most relaxing way possible. The Russians did not want the Circassians there, and the options for them were to leave physically or leave their bodies. So many left the area physically and began an exodus down through Turkey into this region here. But they found Amman to be a nice little place to settle because, you know, it was farmland, it was empty, the Ottomans didn't really care about it, and they started to come in massive numbers here to Amman, which would kind of set a pattern for the rest of the history of Amman. After this, Amman really became a place where people could safely settle. The Kurds would come after the Circassians, and much later, once Israel became a thing, many Palestinians, but I'm getting out of myself, hold on. Things really perked up for Amman in 1903 when the Hejaz Railway was built and had a stop in Amman. The Hejaz Railway connected, I believe, Istanbul or maybe Damascus, some major center up there. That went all the way to Mecca. So many people traveling this railway to get to Mecca for the Hajj and using it to safely travel across the Levant. So Amman became a popular place after that. It became very hotly contested during World War I when the British sort of overasserted themselves in the region, and many Arab tribes, mainly down in, this is all Saudi Arabia here, mainly down here, but it bled over to Jordan, a period known as the Arab Revolt, where many tribes, including Jordanian tribes, pushed back against the Ottomans at first, which became the British once the Ottomans were clearly on their way out at this point in time. If you've seen the movie Lawrence of Arabia, many of the events he took place and happened in Jordan, and the movie Lawrence of Arabia was filmed in Jordan. Big movie industry in Jordan nowadays, but we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about that later. So one of the tribes that rebelled were the Hashemites. And once the British had firm control over Jordan and established the British, mandate, the British mandate, the Hashemites were the ones placed in power. In 1921, the Emir created the Emirate of Transjordan, named after the Jordan River over here. Transjordan meaning along the Jordan, because at this point it included the West Bank here. So both sides of the Jordan is what that meant. That would very much change in the 1970s once Israel gained more and more influence. Many Palestinians, rightfully so in my opinion, pushed back against Israel. Israel pushed back twice as hard, which led to many Palestinians fleeing what was Palestine into Amman. Most of them were just average old Palestinian people minding their own business, being forced out of their homes, but some of those were not so nice Palestinians who were part of the PLO, or the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which launched many attacks against Israel. Still do to this day, to be honest. The Jordanian government was none too pleased about the PLO settling and running their base of operations in Amman, especially after they lost the West Bank here and they changed their name to just Jordan. So they started to say, look, you can be here, but you can't be here doing this, right? You can't be committing horrible acts against other people across the border, it's only going to bring trouble. Jordan's a peaceful country. We're not about that. The PLO didn't like that. They pushed back in 1970 in a period in Jordan history known as Black September, which almost turned into a full-blown civil war in Jordan, but was put down in, I think, a matter, well, it's Black September, so probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And the PLO were kicked out and they went to Lebanon, where they still operate today. But that didn't stop many Palestinians from coming to Amman. And many other people groups would seek Amman as a refuge during difficult times, mainly during Iraq's various wars. Many Iraqis came over during the Iraq-Iran War and the Gulf War, and Kuwaitis as well sought refuge in Amman during the Gulf War. Later, Syrians would stream into Amman during the Syrian Civil War beginning in 2015. Technically, on paper, it's over, but it really isn't. It could flare up again any second, to be honest. This has been, good and bad for Amman. Good because Amman is so ethnically diverse. Many different religions and people groups cohabitating here totally peacefully. It's a very modern, very progressive place in the Middle East. Probably the most progressive place in the Middle East today. The bad is that within those people fleeing from different parts of the Middle East and the Levant comes people with not good intentions. That came to a head in 2005 when a big attack led by, in an effort to not get demonetized, the people who led attacks against the United States in 2001. Let's just say it was that organization led attacks in Amman in 2005 against various hotels. Amman came down hard on these people, and it's been a very relaxed, safe place to be ever since. So it's just a really neat place. But I write down everything I want to say. I rehearse, and then when I hit record, I always forget something. Every single video, I hit stop and went, oh, I forgot to say this. But I just remembered what I forgot. Was Amman's UNESCO World Heritage Site. I know a lot of you guys like that segment. It's located a little bit south of the city of Amman, right about here. And it's known as ar-Rasas. So let me grab my tablet. It's upside down. And we're going to read about it. ar-Rasas. Say hello to my neighbors upstairs stomping around, if you can hear them. ar-Rasas. Most of this archaeological site, which started as a Roman military camp and grew to become a town from the 5th century, has not been excavated. It contains remains from the Roman, Byzantine, and early Muslim periods from the end of the 3rd through the 9th century CE, and a fortified Roman military camp. The site also has 16 churches, some with well-preserved mosaic floors. Particularly noteworthy is the mosaic floor of the Church of St. Stephen, with its representation of towns in the region. It's really cool. It's like a big map. 2 square towers are probably the only remains of the practice, well known in this part of the world, of the stylites, or the ascetic monks who spent time in isolation atop a column or tower. ar-Rasas is surrounded by and dotted with remains of ancient agricultural cultivation in an arid area. Let's take a look at this place. It's pretty fascinating, and then I'll pull it up on Google Earth. Let's see, some of these mosaics are absolutely stunning. Here's some of the old stylites, which Yes, Christian, I want to say monks, but it was also just whoever got the itch to do it would go atop these towers and just sit there and pray and I guess meditate and fast until they felt the need to come down. These beautiful old arches remain. Some more beautiful mosaics. And yeah, a lot of these depicted actual places for the Romans. I could look at the floor and see a big map of the Roman world. Isn't that incredible? It's pretty much what remains. Really, really beautiful. Some old crosses there as well. It's like Crusader crosses. There was a period where the Crusaders came by, passed through, I should say, but that was during the period when there was just not a lot happening in Amman. So here is Amman Governorate as the borders actually look. You can see it's mostly wadis here and desert, just a whole lot of nothing, which isn't a bad thing. It's very beautiful, isn't it? You can see little farms here and there. But the Jordanian desert, which bleeds into the Syrian desert, which bleeds into the Nafud in Saudi Arabia, is a really beautiful place. So here's ar-Rasas. You can see the sites over here. Church of St. Stephen, they mention that. That's all that's left of this ancient Byzantine church with the beautiful mosaics and ruins. It's so lovely. Oh, there's some herders there. See, that's all that's left of the floor. Really remarkable that it's still so well preserved, because mosaics don't really last long in the grand scheme of things, since they're all very tiny little tiles placed just so. They fall apart very, very easily. The signpost there in the ruins. You can find your way around from the year 785. There we go. So let's head up to the capital in Amman and check out the sights to see there. Oh, there's Matapa, my cat's here, the neighbors stomping upstairs. Lots of things happening right now behind the scenes. Kitten, hey. Where is he? Hi, honey. Calm down, okay? Hush, you're okay. I promise. Okay. So let's start off at the Jordan Museum. Oh, he's coming up. He's trying to, anyway. Oh, poor kitten. Poor kitten. He wants to come up so bad. Alright, come on. Let's take a look at these while my cat figures his life out. Lots of really cool artifacts. Here he is. Alright. Here's his tail. Get in shot there. There we go. Yes, I know you love the tablet. I know you do. Okay. Hi, honey. Alright, so here are the guys in Gazal. Out of the way of the cat. Here's the big two-headed one. You can see some of the more regular ones there. And yeah, look at these goobers. Look at those eyes. Very characteristic of these statues. Old stelae. And lots of cool Roman stuff. You can tell it's definitely Roman. The cat's rubbing the camera. This is a cool guy. I like that statue. I like his feet. Not sure what happened there. Looks like some person from India maybe visited and left that carriage behind. Old kitty, kid you not. Old train track here. Some old, not pots. What is it, like containers? This is an elephant. Doesn't look like it from this thing. Oh no, it's a camel. I'm sorry. It's a big camel, and that's the water spout. It looks like not that from that angle. More beautiful pots, more stelae, more Roman statues. The cat has found, oh my goodness, look at this. Right, my cat just fell off the desk. He's playing with the ribbon that comes in this atlas. I have to hide it from him. An old invention, it looks like, from maybe Umayyad Ayyubid times, when the Arabic world really popped off in terms of science and technology. It looks like they tried to make a glider of some kind. It's pretty cool. But what we really want to see is the Citadel. Alright, you didn't see, but I just pulled it up. My cat started to pop off really bad, so I had to cuddle that out. I think he's calmed down now. But here we can see the Citadel. We go like that. You can kind of see just how hilly this place is. Lots of big hills and little valleys. So let's explore the Citadel. And we can see the ruins that are left over. This is from the Temple of Hercules. There's his hand. It's a bit of the statue here. This is the Umayyad Palace. You can see it's been rebuilt. You can see the old base of it and the newer parts. There's the theater down below at the bottom of the hill. They still do plays and stuff there, like outdoor theater. Isn't that cool? The dome of the palace looks like someone lost a balloon, but it's all wood. Isn't that cool? Lots of ancient places that remain. A little map of it. This is where Amman began, and pretty much was the only area of Amman until, like I said, the 1800s. There's these cool pillars here that show the periods of people that lived here. There's some more Ingazal statues. This one's a little worse for wear. Pretty neat. There's a viewing platform over here. You can look out and see the beautiful sprawling city of Jordan. Isn't that beautiful? There's something so lovely about all the buildings being the same color but different little shapes. It's really neat, I think. But yeah, the old ancient part. There's the theater down there. Anything popping up? Yeah, the folklore museum. Well, that's cool. I haven't seen the slideshow. I assume stories of folk tales told through these little figurines here. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this short because my cat is wigging out for now. But neat little place, isn't it? Telling lots of different stories. Lots of artifacts and cool old instrument there. Old guns. And more mosaics. So yeah, there is a lot to explore in Jordan. Those are the place that you should see. Raqadam Palace. Let me see that real quick. It's constructed in 1926. The residence of King Abdullah I. Must be his grave. The whole family came out. But yeah, I'm gonna cut it short there to see what my cat is freaking out about. But please feel free to explore Amman on your own, as there's so much more to see. You could see the cool automobile museum. You can see the place, the hill where Ingazal, the statues were dug up. Not the coolest slideshows, but still fun to explore on your own. The Royal Tank Museum. The Cave of the Seven Sleepers, which is apparently a story from the Quran. Let me pull that up while I say my goodbyes. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's the one mentioned in the Quran. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, besides the cats. Look, it's the one mentioned in the Quran. And if you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing, as this is an ongoing series. Next, we're going to be heading over to Thailand. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you have a good